Mr. Landry's office smelled faintly of leather and old paper. It hadn't changed in years. The same framed degrees on the wall. The same heavy wooden desk. The same brass lamp Harold once joked made the place look like a courtroom from the 1950s. Claire walked in first, heels sharp against the tile. Evan followed, quieter than usual. I stepped in last. Not because I was unsure. Because I wanted them seated before I began. Mr. Landry stood and shook my hand with both of his. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said gently, "I was very sorry to hear about Harold." "Thank you," I replied. "He trusted you." His eyes flicked briefly toward Evan and Claire. "And I intend to honor that trust." We sat. Claire crossed her legs. Evan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I understand there are questions regarding the Whitmore family trust." Mr. Landry began. "Yes," Claire said quickly. "We just want clarity." "Clarity." I folded my hands in my lap. Mr. Landry opened a thick folder. "As of 2015, he said, adjusting his glasses, the Whitmore residence was transferred into the trust. Mrs. Whitmore is the primary beneficiary with full residential rights for the remainder of her lifetime." Claire's jaw tightened slightly. "And after her?" she asked. Mr. Landry continued reading. "Upon her passing, the property transfers to the successor beneficiary, Mr. Evan Whitmore, contingent upon compliance with the behavioral clauses outlined in Section 4. Evan blinked. "Behavioral clauses?" he repeated. I watched Claire carefully. She was very still now. Mr. Landry turned a page. "Any attempt by the successor beneficiary, or spouse thereof, to coerce, intimidate, displace, or financially undermine the primary beneficiary shall result in immediate forfeiture of inheritance rights." The word spouse hung in the air. Claire's fingers gripped her purse. "That's ridiculous," she said lightly. "No one is intimidating anyone." Mr. Landry did not smile. "There is also documentation," he continued, "that if Mrs. Whitmore is pressured to vacate the residence against her will, ownership converts to a charitable housing foundation Harold established in 2018. Evan straightened in his chair. "A foundation?" he asked. "Yes," Mr. Landry replied, "specifically designated for widows displaced from their homes." Silence. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just heavy. Claire cleared her throat. "That seems extreme." Harold had never been extreme. He had been prepared. I looked at my son. "Your father worried," I said quietly, "about what would happen if I were ever treated as temporary." Evan's face shifted. "I would never," he began. I didn't interrupt him. I let him hear the weight of what he almost said. Mr. Landry closed the folder slowly. "In simple terms," he said, "Mrs. Whitmore cannot be removed from the property. Any effort to do so would carry legal and financial consequences." Claire forced a small laugh. "No one is removing her." "You gave me 14 days," I said calmly. The room went still again. Evan looked at Claire. Claire looked at the floor. "I was emotional," she said. "We were grieving." "No," I replied softly. "You were planning." There was no accusation in my tone. That unsettled her more. Mr. Landry slid a document across the desk toward me. "Harold asked me to review this with you personally if the need ever arose," he said. I scanned the page. In Harold's handwriting, beneath the legal language, he had written, "You built this home with me. No one gets to erase that." My vision blurred for just a second. Not from weakness. From recognition. He had known. Not specifically. Not about dinner conversations or 14-day deadlines. But he had known human nature. Claire stood abruptly. "This is absurd," she said. "We were only trying to help." "Help me where?" I asked. "To downsize. To be practical." "There's that word again," I said gently. Evan finally spoke. "Mom, why didn't you tell us about this sooner?" "Because," I replied, "you didn't ask how I felt. You asked when I would leave." He had no answer for that. We left the office in silence. The ride home felt longer than 15 minutes. Claire stared out the window. Evan gripped the steering wheel too tightly. I watched the passing storefronts calmly. They had believed I was alone. That grief would make me compliant. They hadn't considered that Harold and I had spent decades building more than walls. When we pulled into the driveway, Evan turned off the engine but didn't move. "Mom," he said quietly, "I didn't know." "I know," I answered. And I did. He hadn't known. But he hadn't stopped it either. Claire opened her door without saying goodbye and walked inside. Evan lingered. "Are you going to enforce it?" he asked. I looked at him. "I don't need to enforce anything," I said. "The document speaks for itself." He nodded slowly. For the first time since that dinner, he looked like a son again instead of a man calculating square footage. Inside the house, Claire was already on her phone in the kitchen, voice low and tight. I didn't try to listen. I walked upstairs instead. Into the bedroom Harold and I had shared. I sat on the edge of the bed and let the quiet settle around me. This wasn't victory. Not yet. It was correction. They had assumed I would shrink. Instead, I stood. And something told me Claire was not finished. People who plan quietly do not surrender easily. Neither do widows who were warned in advance.